It's an on-again, off-again relationship with Brendan Sorsby and the NFL, and as of now, he will not be allowed to enter the supplemental draft. And who are the top 6 tight ends entering the 2026 season in today's NFL Six-Pack?
This is Locked On's NFL Six-Pack. 6 bold takes from 2 guys who just flat out know football. NFL experts Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock bring pure NFL talk. Great takes, no fluff, just honest football talk. Crack one open. It's NFL Six-Pack on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the NFL Six-Pack. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson. Thanks for tuning in. We're talking top tight ends in the NFL. One of those tight ends, Kyle Pitts, will he make the six-pack? Got a big extension with the Atlanta Falcons. But there's another story that is kind of befuddling me, Matt, which is the Brendan Sorsby. Will he play college football? Will he play pro football? Will he never play football again? And so we've got to get to the latest of this Brendan Sorsby, the NFL trying to deny him. And if that will stick, today's episode of the NFL Six-Pack is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. So, Matt, Brendan Sorsby, now the NFL, maybe you can explain this one a little bit better.
I think so. I've dug into it pretty hard.
Figure out what's going on here. According to Tom Pelissero, the NFL sent a letter to Brendan Sorsby and his representation informing him it is declining his petition to enter the supplemental draft, so there will be no supplemental draft this year, says the league. And that would come up here pretty soon, so they got to figure all this out within the next, before training camp. It would happen July, right? And I think June 22nd, just a few days ago, was the deadline to apply for it, which Brendan Sorsby did. And so, at least for now, there's no place for Brendan Sorsby to play football because he's not going to play college football either.
Yeah, and I think you summed it up well. I mean, that he applied for the supplemental draft when it was pretty clear that the NCAA would not let him play for Texas Tech, and had to do that by June 22nd, did what he was supposed to do. And the league basically said, well, they did say, we're not going to have a supplemental draft because we don't want you in the league. Which is a direct reflection, obviously, of their massive emphasis on gambling, of course, which I want to talk about that in a minute, too. In the meantime, I think Sorsby even set up a pro day at one of these huge Texas high schools. And the supplemental draft would be about a month from now, like late July. These teams want to get them in camp and all that good stuff, too, get them acclimated. So from what I know is Sorsby's representation, I guess, is some lawyer in LA that has done battle with the NFL many, many times, always on the players' behalf, players' union stuff. And I guess he's considered like the Darth Vader for the NFL. Like, he beats the NFL a lot.
Okay. Actually, Jeffrey Kessler is the name here.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a report from Pete Thamel who says Brendan Sorsby's attorney, Jeffrey Kessler, tells ESPN of the NFL's decision to not hold a supplemental draft, quote, "It is a violation of this collective bargaining agreement and the law. We will pursue this immediately with the NFL Players Association."
So I think this is far from done. I mean, this big dog attorney is going to come at the NFL with his teeth out in a big way. Now, Sorsby's not part of the Players Association, though. I mean, I don't know how he can.
Can you represent a guy who's not part of your organization?
Right. I mean, he's not paid union dues. He's not in the Players Association. I think that's why there's an issue why he couldn't come in the league and get a suspension right off the bat, although Terrell Pryor did when he was in the supplemental draft. That I don't 100% understand. Now, people I've talked to, I think the league was very interested in giving a substantial pickup for Sorsby. Okay. Now, side note, it bothers me, but I understand it, and I'm not making light of it. But if this would be vehicular murder, manslaughter, or, I mean, I'm, again, not making light of it. If he threw a woman down the steps, they would let him in. And I understand betting's different. and I'm not here to talk about ethics or the ethics of the league. And I understand that if someone's betting on the game, then the game could evaporate real quick and everything you built is gone. But I can't believe this is the worst infraction that anyone has ever done entering the league, and they let everybody else in. You know what I mean?
We don't have all the information on the gambling stuff that
Right.
I know of. What I've seen though, it was considerable amount of gambling activity from Brandon Sorsby, like
I think it's like 90
4,000
grand or
4,000 bets that ended up
Yeah.
being like a lot of money, betting the under on his own team, and just some very no stuff that you should know that you can't
Yeah.
do. I don't know how you can, if you have a gambling addiction and a serious gambling problem, you go to a couple of meetings, because it hasn't been that long since he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. That wasn't that long ago, right? That was this year, 2026. Are you? Like,
oh yeah.
And I'm cured now. Let's go play football. Now I'm cured. So I understand why the league and so like NCAA and the NFL are both like, we don't want you in the league. So I wonder if there's even more information that would make the league say, no, we don't want any part of this. But that teams would have a lot of that information and would also be like, well, we're not going to spend much on them in the supplemental draft anyway. So
that's
what
I mean. 32 different teams can make their own decision on this matter. Some of them might be like, I think he's gonna get suspended and he's gonna gamble again. I don't want anything to do with him. Or someone might be like, I think he's fine. I don't know. I think this is far from over.
Yeah, I don't see, and this was kind of like the original thing where it was like, wait a second, what? How can the league keep him from
earning a living
right, and having the possibility? Now you can suspend him. That would make total sense if they said, okay, cool, you're in the supplemental draft now, but you're suspended. But not allowing a player to enter the league through this process is a little bit weird, and I don't understand how it's even possible that they could do that.
And I hate talking medical or legal because I didn't go to law school, I didn't go to med school, but
yeah.
I'm betting Sorsby's killer lawyers looking at this like, I can beat it.
Be like, nice try, NFL, but we're gonna get up to some courts, and at some point some courts and be like, yeah, you can't keep him from entering the league. You can suspend him when he's there, but you can't keep him from entering it.
It might be unconstitutional, if you take it to the highest of courts, they might be like, you can't tell him he can't work for Apple or IBM because
well, and what it's much worse for the league to say, oh, we're just not going to hold the supplemental draft. Well, now he's an undrafted free agent.
Well, supposedly the only way he can enter the NFL is through the next draft, the 2027 draft. And then there's talk, could he go to the CFL or the UFL?
But what I'm saying is if this goes beyond the supplemental draft and it's like, okay, well, now there's no supplemental draft because that already passed.
Yeah, that came and went.
And then the courts say you have to let him enter the league. Well, now he could just go sign.
I say, is he just a free agent?
So that could get really dicey, because if the league can't hold him out, then there will be no draft process, which is if he enters the league, you want him to be able to enter the draft process. And then if he enters the draft process next year, then do you try to suspend him after that retroactively because he still hadn't been in the league? So just suspend him for the year if the NFL doesn't want him in, like right now. And so I don't really understand what the angle even is from the NFL to not have a supplemental draft.
No, I just think it's like, we're going to make a big statement about gambling is wrong, on a national stage.
Or is there... The only thing I can think of is, are the NFL and NCAA trying to help each other out, where they're like, look, this is what,
we can't go down this road.
Don't let the players run the thing. We have to, we have to reprimand this young man and not allow him to do the thing and just have lawyers and get wherever he wants. And we try to keep him out, and it helps us out, and we try to help each other out as leagues, and it'll help us out if you say no to the sub draft.
Brought to you by DraftKings.
Probably it. They would probably, the supplemental draft, you'd have to, the draft is a huge thing, and people are paying attention. You'd have to be able to monetize this supplemental draft for a big time player that a team could maybe even offer up for. Because I don't doubt your sources, Matt, but
it's not like I have sources, but I think teams are very interested.
It would blow my mind if a team was willing to spend we've been talking all year about how valuable those 2027 first round picks are for a guy that hasn't yet produced and put. Because you know what it's like when you go through the draft process and you poke every hole in every player, and you mean to tell me they're like, oh yeah, we're just going to just drop a first rounder on this guy. Like, I find that really hard to believe.
I'm not certain there'd be a first rounder, but I did a podcast for local here and really dug into it. Actually, several of them saying for the Steelers, if I was cool with the person, which I can't comment on, if you think this guy's going to gamble forever, then the answer is no. Yeah. Or if you think or even that aside, if he's a bad human being and
it's an attribute that is bigger than gambling. It's a personal thing, and if it's not, maybe it's whatever.
Maybe I don't like the person, no matter what. Even if he never gambles again, maybe I don't want him to be my quarterback because I hate him, or whatever. He's a bad dude. But if I liked him and I thought I trusted him, for the Steelers, I would offer a second round pick.
Mm-hmm. A late 2 makes sense for a team that really liked him and thought they couldn't get him with their third because it would be too low tier of third to do a late 2. I could buy that. That feels like the maximum.
I mean, Carolina, Tampa, Dallas, Detroit, some of these ones that kind of have a quarterback in place, but let alone the Jets, Cardinals, Browns,
Right. Yeah. Steelers, Philly, the teams that aren't in the top tier teams. And then that would be like, okay, the Cardinals and those other teams, the Browns, they do a third. And if a team spends more than a third, okay. But in this draft, I just don't see how you can go higher than.
Like those teams, I'm waiting for Arch or Moore or whatever, because I'm probably going to get my shot at those dudes. Right.
Yeah. You're going to be in the top third of the first round in April.
Yeah. And you have multiple picks.
Yeah. All right, so I'm sure it's not the last we're going to talk about Brandon.
No, I'm sure it's not.
Let's just wait till that decision gets overturned, I guess, and let's turn our attention to tight ends, Matt. Kyle Pitts has signed a nice little extension with the Atlanta Falcons after getting the franchise tag earlier this offseason. And who are the top 6 tight ends in 2026? Next. Today's episode of NFL Six Pack brought to you by Square, the business platform helping sellers become neighborhood favorites. Whether you're preparing for a busy summer season or maybe you're just managing everyday demand, Square helps keep your business moving with everything from payments and online orders to inventory, staff, management, and so much more, all in one place so business owners can spend less time managing tools and more time focusing on their customers. Square helps simplify the everyday work behind running a business while giving owners the tools they need to keep growing. And it's something you notice when you're supporting your local businesses you love. Spot Hook Fish, best fish and chips, in my opinion, in the Bay Area. And it's just right now, it is the closest restaurant to my house, and I love it. And we do little bike rides down there, take a little walk down there. And it's a fantastic spot here. And checkout is quick. They know their customers. The whole experience feels organized. It's right there. Boom, boom. You can tip how you want. You can get your receipt how you want. And you can really feel it when a business is operating on that level. So they can all focus on the customer and not the operations, using tools like Square to make that possible. And Square helps you run your business more smoothly, bringing payments, operations, insights together in one place. So you're ready for whatever's next. So right now, listeners can get up to $200 off Square hardware when you sign up at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's Square, SQUARE.com/GO/LockedOnNFL. Get started with Square and build a setup that works the way you do. Is Kyle Pitts one of the top 6 tight ends as we project what this league will look like in 2026? Now, when we're talking about tight ends, we're not as much looking back at, okay, these were the best tight ends last year. Who are the best tight ends into the 2026 season? Because there's some tight ends that may be on the downside and on the upside of their careers, Matt. And Kyle Pitts, I think, is still an ascending player and just got a new contract with the Atlanta Falcons for $18 million per year. So it's a 3-year contract, $18 million per year. And you and I have talked a lot about this on this show. Before we get to your 6-pack here, Matt, of tight ends, and then we might have to talk through who's going to be on it. But Kyle Pitts is not a superstar tight end. He's not the best tight end in the NFL, but he's super talented. He's a chess piece for an offense. Mm-hmm. And He's making about the same amount of money as Rashid Shaheed, who had 15 catches for the championship Seahawks after he was traded there mid-season. And if I'm
Who'd you rather have?
If I'm choosing an asset, I choose Kyle Pitts all day long over Rashid Shaheed, who's like a number 3 wide receiver and a nice return man. And maybe he'll be a bigger part of the Seahawks offense. But wide receiver money's out of control. Tight end money has just not caught up. And it's still, I think it's a value signing, even if you think that Kyle Pitts has been a disappointment after drafted number 4 overall 5 years ago.
Yeah, you've been saying this since we've done the show, and you've been right every step of the way, and the market, to me, has not corrected itself. I mean, I like Shaheed. I might rather have Pitts than 2 Shaheeds. I mean, like, it's not even close. I mean, what I can find what Patrice or what Shaheed can do a lot easier than Pitts. Now, I do have some mixed feelings, and maybe that's part of the reason there's this influx of 12 and 13 tight ends too, because I can fit them under the cap and they're easier to acquire. And
yeah,
blah, blah,
I think it's a big part of that. The teams are looking at this and like, look, what you can do run and pass with the tight end is super valuable for a lot cheaper. But let's get 3 of those guys and force teams into personnel looks that we want and find advantages instead of having a fast guy that we have to pay too much money to that we target 4 times a game.
Yeah, like the Rams are famous for this, but Terrence Ferguson isn't going to block anybody. I mean,
he'll block a little bit. He'll block more than Rashid Shaheed will.
More than Shaheed, right? Exactly, right. He's a good blocker for a wideout.
And how you have to treat that player too for a defense is a big part of this.
And a big, I mean, not to get too much into the tight end stuff, but a huge reason why these teams are going to multiple tight ends is just to try to get teams out of too high shells. It's just, how can I create explosives with a seam route or whatever, against single high or blah, 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 but anyway, I'm going to say keep getting bigger until you finally put someone else in the box, is kind of the logic behind it. And if I can do it with cheaper people that are more available than wideouts or whatever, great.
And generally, tight ends are easier to find. Just the body type and what they can do as an athlete, and the pass catcher is more valuable than a fullback. So the fullback is going the way of the dodo.
So for the 6-pack or just ranking tight ends, I think this is very applicable to Pitts. There's a couple things I think are noteworthy. Is 2 or 3 years ago, there was a study done that tight ends really hit their stride around age 27. They're kind of a slow burn when they come into the league. And if you notice the great ones, they last forever, even when they run like me, like the Gates and Wittens and Gonzalez's. I mean, takes them a while, but then they last forever. When I built my list, a lot of them are still really youthful though. Like I wonder if that's changing, that guys are coming in the league and making more of an impact early on. So I think that's one aspect of tight end evaluation we need to at least be aware of. And the other one is Evan Ingram's an example of this. Kincaid's an example of this. Pitts is borderline. But if you don't block anybody and the defense says, I'm just going to put a corner on you, and instead of being the movable chess piece queen on the board, you're really just a slow slot receiver. Like you're
big. Good luck catching a jump ball because you have height on my guy, but that's about it. And
I'm going to put Stingley on you.
Right. Well, and if you do end up having to block one of our big people, then we have the advantage now.
Like if Pitts can't at least block a linebacker, I'm not saying he has to block Bosa in the run game.
Just chip, yeah.
You at least need to be, like what's the difference between him and Marquise Colston or, a slow big receiver that's good at what he does, but that's part of the Kincaid problem. Like, how I'm digging into fantasy lately. Like I heard someone really smart say, boy, when Kincaid's on the field, the splits for the Bills are much better offensively. Well, yeah, because when he's on the fields, when they throw the ball, when he's off the fields, when they run the ball.
Right. Yeah.
Like
it's funny because I had Juwan Jennings is fascinating for me because
he's not much different.
He's a big slot that's tough guy and physical and gives you an advantage in the blocking game, but you have to treat him like a wide receiver. And I always said that Kyle Shanahan treats him like a move tight end, just doesn't tell anybody and doesn't tell him that he's actually a tight end and not a wide receiver. But then when it comes time to pay him, well, it's like, well, now he's a move tight end and you would like to pay him like a move tight end or a number 3 wide receiver, but he wants more money than that. And then you can't re-sign him because it's the opposite of the value where now you have to pay a tight end like a wide receiver. You want to pay wide receivers like tight ends.
If we're putting them in buckets, maybe him and Pitts are in the same bucket, but I get Pitts cheaper because he is a TE now on his football card.
Yeah, exactly. And in the end, Juwan Jennings got paid less because I think he overplayed his hands. I think everyone else saw him as like,
his is kind of different.
Pay a 4.7 wide receiver $20 million a year. And so, with $13 million a year, I think 1 year contract. But again, they're a big power slot receiver that can block is no different than a move tight end that's not that great of a blocker for a tight end.
Right.
Yeah.
So like we saw this in this past draft, but even like there more and more value is going to Jackson Hughes or Darnell Washington, the big time blockers that
Darnell
can also catch.
Darnell Washington is a fascinating one because he got a lot of money for very little receiving
5 or 6
production, even though he can catch the football. But he's an extra offensive lineman almost as a tight end.
Right.
He goes the other way.
He's that tweener between O-line and tight end. It's like the Bills are a great example because 2 years ago they led the league in 6 offensive line sets. Then they draft Jackson Hawes, I called him Hughes, who's a hammer blocker. Mm-hmm. They never used 6 O-linemen again. They put him out there.
Yeah.
And he may actually run a route as opposed to a 320-pounder, and you get lighter boxes. But I didn't have any true blocking tight ends. My list is still a little more fantasy oriented than that. I can't quite put him in the top 6 as blocker first and catches 12 passes a year.
Well, let's get into it.
You know what I mean?
Does Kyle Pitts then make the 6-pack of top tight ends for 2026, according to Matt Williamson. Next. Today's episode of NFL 6-pack brought to you by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that really were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing the software. The best organizations really that I know, whether it's NFL football teams or any business out there, success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Everyone pulling in the same direction. And, it's not just one great player or coach. It's how it's all coordinated and the effort across the 53-man roster that makes everything successful. And then beyond that, from scouting to coaching, organizationally, and it's why great owners usually put together great football teams from the top down. In the NFL, great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. All right, who are the easy entries then into your 6-pack of top tight ends for 2026 here, Matt?
Okay, 2 little side notes. Like one guy I love, and I'll give you the easy ones here in a minute. I don't think this is going to take super long. I love AJ Barner. He's not one of the 6 best tight ends in the league. He's not going to be great for your fantasy team, but I think every coach in the league would have loved to have AJ Barner.
I think there's a lot of those guys, which is again why I think teams are starting to target tight ends, because it's like, man, there's just guys that are willing to do the dirty work. They're usually smart and tough.
Hard to play against.
Tight ends usually make really good coaches after their playing careers. They know so much about the run game and the pass game. That's why it takes a little bit longer to develop. There's a lot you have to know, because you have to kind of know what offensive linemen are doing. You have to know what the receivers are doing, and you think like a quarterback at times. So there's a lot of those players around the league and a lot of tight ends that maybe don't impact your fantasy team. And, Barner does. Barner's a fantasy player.
Yeah.
That maybe get underrated around the NFL.
And some of them were quarterbacks turned tight ends and understand what quarterbacks are looking for.
Yep.
And the last note I wanted to make, the last segment I forgot, though, is like Eli Stowers, now an Eagle. I saw a lot of draft analysts put him even in their wide receiver ranks.
Yeah.
Like he isn't close to
Barner. Especially with the way colleges employ tight ends anyway. It's like, they never have to block anybody. They're just a tall receiver.
Exactly. I mean, that's part of the problem is you don't get much college like fullbacks. So I have 5 names I think are pretty easy
Okay.
And then I got a few fighting for the last spot. See if you
Okay.
fight me on any of these.
All right.
No particular order. Brock Bowers, McBride.
Yeah.
I'm still putting Kittle right there for sure. And frankly, I think Kittle's one of the most underrated tight ends in the all-time conversation. I'm ready to put Loveland there. I think Loveland's pretty special.
And again, we're projecting this for 2026. Seeing what Loveland did as a rookie, it's pretty easy to see what he could be, and to put him in that group with McBride and Bowers. And he's a bigger guy that should be a better blocker than Bowers and McBride as well.
And he was a monster in the playoffs and
Yeah.
got better as the season went on. And I think they're going to structure their offense around him in a big way. I also think he can get open on his own. And Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft I adore too. I think Tucker Kraft's the next Kittle.
Yeah, so with both Kraft and Kittle, the question right now isn't about how good they are. And to be honest with you, with what they can do in the run game and the pass game, they might be 1 and 2 in the NFL.
Yeah.
But both coming off pretty significant injuries.
I know. I didn't want to hold that too much against them.
Yeah, and so you have to we're projecting that they're going to come through those injuries okay. George Kittle, the report yesterday was that he's running 16 miles per hour now in his rehab, and apparently he had the good kind of Achilles. I don't know if there's a good Achilles tear when you're 33 years old. So, we could start to see the end of Kittle as far as, because he was fast. He was running away from guys early in his career. Yeah. He's probably not going to be that going forward, but he is such a good blocker and so tough, and a dynamic receiver as well that you can feature in a passing game. And that's what Kraft is. That's what Loveland potentially could be. Not quite the blocker, but he's got the size and the ability.
He's got enough.
That dual threat tied in, right? So
I just saw FTN did a run after the catch study, yards after catch, and they broke it down by position. And Kraft was like one of the best ever at tight end last year.
Wow.
Like he's a physical run you over or run by you type of guy, with the ball in his hands. And it reminds me of Kittle.
So no Kelsey there. Where's he at this point? He's not even considered. He's
specialty move the chains, red zone guy.
He'll make some third down. He'll convert some third downs probably still, but he's not the guy he used to be.
Agreed. But on my fringe is Pitts. I mean, I still think Pitts is dangerous, and he can open it up, and 6'6" goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock anybody if he's a 1,000-yard receiver this year and the number 2 guy after London in that passing game.
Agreed. Laporta.
Yes.
Warren. I'm a little hard on Warren, though, especially when I compare him to Loveland, because I think Warren kind of needs to be schemed up a little bit more than Loveland.
That was my big question with Warren coming out of school, is that, okay, he got gifted a lot of what he did.
Yes.
And if your play caller trusts you that way, there's probably a reason why. But it was like, what's the translation that what he's doing that he's going to translate that to any offense in the NFL? And that's why Colston Loveland was drafted higher. And I correctly drafted higher than Tyler Warren, even though Tyler Warren was like the guy for most of the draft process. And you realize, good. We'll see how much of this actually translates to the NFL.
As you can imagine, I did a ton of Drew Aller homework after the Steelers drafted him, and he didn't play a lot this past year. So I watched a lot of the year before. This isn't making an excuse for Aller, but their receivers were so bad. That's why Warren got schemed up to the point that he was.
They're handing him the ball as a running back. That's like,
right. Ohio State wouldn't have been doing that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
But I still think he's a good player, and the Colts are happy to have him and all those good things. The guy I can't quite give credit to is Fannin. I know he is super productive, and he's just too unorthodox for me. And I also think they schemed him up more than I would like. So I'm going to have a hard time putting him in the 6-pack.
I don't have a problem with Fannin at all, because if we did this 3 years ago, Travis Kelce would have dominated this list.
Oh, yeah.
So I think what Fannin can do as receivers.
You think it's legit?
I don't, and is he that worse of a blocker than Pitts or what Kelce has been? So I'm intrigued by Fannin. I don't know that I'm going to fight to put him on the 6-pack.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dismiss him either.
The other last name that I don't think will make it, I still think Dallas Goedert's vastly underrated. I mean, he has really, really good production when A.J. Brown's not on the field. They just run the ball too much. He can block. I don't think he's a slow old man at this point. I think Goddard's still a really good player, but I don't think he'll make the 6-pack.
Yeah, he's kind of like fast forward what we're talking about with Kittle, if like Kittle's not quite the same athletically anymore, still be good, but would he be six-pack worthy at that point?
Exactly.
And that's kind of what Goddard already is. My pick of this group would probably be Laporta.
I'm leaning that way too. I think Pitts is second, but I think I would take Laporta.
And obviously similar what we saw what he did in the offense that Loveland now plays in with Ben Johnson in Detroit. He is a very good blocker. He is a good receiver. He's athletic, has a lot of everything. I love that you brought up Barner. That deserves to be
those
a bunch of other tight ends that we can start to talk about. To be honest with you, might be entering the golden era of tight ends.
Yeah. I mean, even like the Darnell Washingtons, if he can catch 50 balls, look out.
But here's what's going to happen. So if more and more teams are chasing tight ends, and we already saw the beginnings of that in the draft, like drafting them a lot higher than we expected.
Yep.
Now our team's going to have to start paying tight ends more because everyone's chasing them, and then it becomes more scarce because everyone needs more and is valuing them more.
Which then makes this Pitts contract and all the other ones signed look even better.
Right,
there's a massive spike in inflation.
All of a sudden, in 2 years, Brock Bowers gets a $30 million extension per year, right? And
then people are starting to go back to wideouts.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably coming. I also think some of these tight ends were overdrafted because it was such a bad draft class.
I think it's part of it. Yeah.
Like they didn't like, should I take the tight end or the great pass rusher? Like,
do you think there's a little bit of like, there's an ego of the modern era of NFL GMs that is and I'm sure, NFL GMs have had a very big ego for a long time, right? As do coaches, and you get in that spot and you're in control, you're going to do what you're going to do. But there's like this little bit of swagger from GMs where like, let me show you how smart I am. I'm going to overdraft a guy by 4 rounds.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, but because I'm smarter than everyone, right? And so that there's part of that as well. I think with this, and
I think you're dead on. There's a lot of ego in the league,
and the part of the thing that was like my tight end value thing was because you don't have to force a guy 2 rounds too early, and if you start doing that and paying him more, then the whole tight ends are the most valuable contract you can give out in the NFL stops happening.
So that's all for naught.
Like overpaying a guard, right?
Yeah. No, and that's probably what will be the case in 3 or 4 years, or 2 or 3 years.
Bowers, McBride, Kittle, Kraft, Loveland, Laporta.
It's a pretty young group.
It is younger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and maybe Sadiq can get in there next year.
Sadiq, and there's a lot of
million guys
that were drafted this year. Workature. We'll see. We'll see who makes the list next year. But it's a new era of tight ends, Matt, in the NFL.
100%.
Who belongs in the 6-pack that we forgot? Let us know at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Hit us up in the YouTube comments for tomorrow's mailbag episode. And of course, if you are an everydayer, the Everydayer Club is for you. Ad-free editions of the audio version of this podcast, plus an invite to the Discord chat. Find it at NFL6pack.supercast.com or find more about the Everydayer Club in the show notes. Matt and I back tomorrow right here, NFL 6-pack.